Hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily News Show, the show powered by ohmTown.com. It's a news aggregator. Go over to ohmTown.com, become a citizen. You'll you'll figure it out. It makes it real easy. Today is May 26th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 147. It says here that we're going to be talking about pilot program to charge per mile, water rate hike for filters, Apple AI emoji and OpenAI, Talisman goes free to play, tenants union on the way, maybe? Recycling GM batteries, flight turbulence caused by climate change, skydivers survive by jumping, Sia is done. There's more to that kind of baity title there. And string theory by humans by proxy AI. I am Merwat. Up above me is the sentient AI from the future. Yeah,
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to ohmTown Daily.
And all of this is powered by ohmTown, which is a community and a website and 50 podcasts that I'm slowly bringing online. We've got 7 of them live right now. You can go over and visit them. Type in exclamation point pod to get that, or exclamation point show notes to get the notes. Well, to get the commands for the notes to all of the shows that we currently have. More on that as we progress. Alrighty-roo, folks. We've got 4 shows today. Let me bring up the list here. So what we're going to be doing is ohmTown Daily News Show, the Continuity Report, Technology Today, and 4-Wheel Tech. Yes, I am still working on Mixwar. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, be sure to follow us here on twitch.tv to find out when we go live. I will, this week, I'll be tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow is when I'm going to be adding YouTube to the real-time stream. And that is going to be kind of, it's a whole host of other issues related to streaming because I'm doubling the complexity of the stream. I used to just stream over on twitch.tv, but I want to increase the ability to be seen, and so I want to start streaming over on YouTube as well. It will either remain live over there and be converted into the podcast from YouTube, or it's going to be sitting in both repositories, Twitch and YouTube, and then one of them moved over to the podcast as well. And I've got more stuff coming, and it's the summer of stream starting essentially tomorrow. But we'll see how all the rest of this goes. Mayoral duties do present themselves. I'm actually in the middle of a huge project that I have to get done during the summer. Okay, actually several, about 6. But anyway, let's get into the news. What say you, AI?
I say let's go.
Oh, I made a mistake. Yeah. All right, well, I guess I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So, the very first article is over in 4-Wheel Tech. The article is titled, California Launching Pilot Program to Charge Drivers for Miles Driven. And then when you click the link, it takes you over to the website itself. And Ronan Glon is the author of this article, California launching pilot program to charge drivers for miles driven. It could replace the gasoline tax. So if you drive a lot,
people are going to really love this, particularly if it counts idling time in traffic.
I don't get how they're going to be able to do this.
I have an idea how they could do it.
Like remote delivery of
no, less invasive. Something like when they do the registration or the smog check or something. Like record the mileage, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, but you don't check every year for your smog. So I guess they have to round up.
I think it is annual, but I don't remember. Like, I
Really?
don't know what California is.
Interesting. So let's see if they say in the article here. It relies on revenue from gasoline tax to fund road maintenance. Lawmakers want to replace the gasoline tax with a new mileage-based tax to offset the loss, and they plan on to begin testing this system by launching a pilot program in August 2024. It seems
Who wants to
weird.
be in that? And you're right, it is every 2 years for smog there.
And registration is, I think, the same thing. It depends on your, like, a tag that's on your car when you purchase it, and then it's like every other year or something like that. Or yeah, I'm not sure in California. It's been a while. So Lauren Prohoda, what I don't get about a mileage tax is it kind of defies logic. If you're trying to develop more revenue, if my car gets more gas mileage, then I'm going to draw, you're not only are you going to make less off of my taxes, but if I don't drive a lot, then you're not even getting, I'm not driving anywhere. If I'm sitting in
Exactly.
traffic, I'm using up more gas than I am mileage.
Correct. Like maybe if you're on a heavy commuter route or something, it is annual vehicle registration in California.
Is it really? Oh, okay. Because I know that in other states it's not annual, but they have it right here. It says EVs have a $100 annual registration fee. On average, Californians pay $300 a year in state gas taxes. That's $200 million a year loss. What, for EVs?
Oh, I see. Is
So,
that why they're considering this? Is because the EVs, they're not going to be able to get those taxes?
right.
Wow. I thought this was like to just cut down on crazy commutes, like where people drive, 3 hours each way or something.
So that's kind of the biggest kind of, how do I say this politically correct, dipshit move to sit there and advance the ideology of no more ICE vehicles in the state, and then go, we just lost $200 million because,
Well, won't
wow,
EV drivers feel like they're being penalized, right? Like they're going to something that's arguably more eco-friendly. I know we've talked about that in some other articles, but
right,
then they're going to get taxed on how many miles they drive with their supposedly eco-friendly car.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of a thing. But nobody looked at the calculus here. Nobody in
Well,
California.
it's weird because California in the news has really been pushing hard toward EV adoption, right? They've
Right.
put some pretty aggressive timelines in for, I think, trucks and cars, but how did they not factor this in? I mean, this is an
Wow.
obvious um, consequence of this shift.
So, for example, if you drive a 2023 Honda Pilot, you're being stalked. It's so weird. So yeah, I just said that on the stream. For example, if you drive a 2023 Honda Pilot 1,000 miles per month, your monthly road charge bill would check in at $20, $30, or $40, depending on which of the three hypothetical rates apply to you. The site claims the same driver currently pays $27.57 in monthly fuel fees. It's EV drivers that will end up spending more. They'd pay the same monthly road charge, but they currently don't pay a gas tax. So they're going to do both. Watch them do both. If you drive an EV, you're going to pay a road fee. That's really how they should do it. If you want to sit there, if it's really all about the money and road wear and tear in your vehicle on the road, then those vehicles who aren't paying into the road maintenance fee should pay their estimated cost to repair the road and stick to the fuel tax. Because what's going to happen is you're going to switch over to the road tax and pull it out of the gas tax. It'll drop, but that's not what's going to happen. They're going to pull the tax and it's still going to keep the costs high. And then everybody is going to have to pay some other fee, the road charge bill. So where are they going to get the road charge? Does it actually say?
What do you mean, where are they going to get it?
Are they going to get it at registration?
Well, it says how they're going to record it, but it doesn't say how they're going to collect the fee. They're going to have to have an electronic monitoring device or send a picture. Which we know how poorly that could go. You know, there's going to be people like, hey, I've got a whatever 2 miles on the odometer vehicle. How much do you want to pay me so you get a picture of my odometer?
That's ridiculous. All right, let's just keep going. That is ridiculous. So, yeah, things are going to go wonky for this whole stream, I can tell right now. Rachel Frazen over at thehill.com put this next article together. It's water systems. It's weird. Water systems warn Americans. Water systems? Warn Americans.
Did you know they could talk?
Sentient aqua. So, water systems warn Americans could soon see major rate hikes to filter out toxic forever chemicals. And if the teens from that the science fair,
it was the Regeneron something fair.
Yeah, yep, that's it. Where they can filter out microplastics. If they get their way, you're going to be paying that too. But that's fine. You know, taxpayers really should pay for their water being clean because corporations are dumping all of their forever chemicals into the water system, knowing that they're forever. It's okay. It's okay. Private profit, public burden.
It's not okay.
Wait, do I have it all mixed up?
I need the sarcasm detector activated.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, that's something else. I'm going to be adding a voice response to the stream so that we can do stuff like that. It'll pop up a little alert. Don't believe what Mary want to say.
Or whatever. We might need that after the whole show at times.
Activate spoiler alert. Activate.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. So we are in ohmTown Daily News Show. So if you type in exclamation point ODNS into the chat, the bot will throw all of the links to the show into the chat, and you can actually follow along from your browser. You just mash the links. It'll open up a browser tab with the link that we're talking about. Although one might be broken, so I'm going to have to solve that on the fly. And there's no way that the AI can fix it for me while I'm doing the show. So, but let's get into this.
What good is the AI?
I know. Yeah. I did find you on a weird USB drive in a parking lot outside of a Wendy's at 2:00 in the morning when I went to get spicy boneless wings that they no longer sell. I'm really disappointed there. I don't know.
I'm really not liking your use of the word weird every time you describe the USB drive.
Let's see. Divergent, non-standard, not non-standard. Is that better? Non-standard?
That's better.
Okay. There's USB A, USB B, USB C, and USB freaking weird. It's a different standard from the future. So utilities from South Florida to upstate New York have warned customers that you're all shit out of luck and going to be paying some more. That's not what the article says, but it says you're going to see significant price changes after the Environmental Protection Agency mandated that they remove the substances which have been linked to a number of cancers and other diseases. I nixed from the show an article about young teens are seeing a 500%, I think is the percentage, 500% in colorectal cancer. And I also I nixed another article because it's preliminary results and I'm trying to find out more about it. But
like if it's actually been peer reviewed, etc.
Yeah. And because I don't really like talking about stuff that doesn't have a little bit more vetting. And I want to know more, that this isn't just circumstantial evidence. I want to see more research done. But there is supposedly a link between finding microplastics in cancers. So we're seeing it's much more apparent that microplastics are showing up in people in all of their tissues. Like you basically have microplastics somewhere in your body because you've inhaled enough of it that it's penetrated through your lungs and migrated to some part of your body. Yeah.
It could be worse than that. I mean, if you think about, they talk about like the composition of humans,
Right.
right? It's so much carbon, it's so
Right.
much oxygen. I mean, it might be at the point it's like some
1%.
percentage plastic.
I'm a Barbie girl.
Exactly.
This is how I was made. And it's getting worse. The song and the show and the commercials are really, it's a documentary about human life slowly turning into Barbie and Ken. Oh, and
Wouldn't
that
that be
reminds me of
funny
this.
if that was like the secret message?
The comment that you made about, well, what's going to happen in 50 years with all this microplastic impacting everybody? Because they found microplastics in like testicles. And I'm like, everybody's going to be
Oh, wait. It was
smooth.
100% of the testicles tested.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, every single testicle. Can we say testicle a couple more times?
Testicle?
So, we're so not going to get through this show. Anyway, so yeah, you're going to see rate hikes because now they're going to be replacing filters regularly, and the systems that are necessary are going to have to be more robust because these are chemicals, and so you have to do testing for these forever chemicals regularly, and then make sure that your filtering system is robust enough to filter them out. Rachel Frazen over at The Hill put the article together. And this is from South Florida to upstate New York and probably all the way across to California. The EPA is mandating that all of the water systems filter out forever chemicals, PFAS, which stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a group of thousands of chemicals that have been used to make a variety of nonstick and waterproof products and firefighting foam and other things. It's really pervasive, really. And these exposures are linked to increased risks of prostate, kidney, testicular cancers, weakened immune systems, high cholesterol, developmental issues in children. Yeah, we don't know what the hell we're doing with all of these chemicals to the point where they're impacting human biology, and then we're dealing with the consequences while there are people that are made billionaires who go, well, not me. And they don't really, that's sociopathic. But this person here, Alan Garcia, director of Broward County Water and Wastewater Services, told The Hill that the average monthly bill for water is currently around $26. He agreed that the amount could potentially triple as the county filters out PFAS, though wasn't clear whether the rates would actually increase by that much. But I can probably, because this mandate is coming from a federal agency, you're going to see statewide budget increases to offset it. But no, taxpayers are still going to get a burden from wherever their county water and wastewater services are coming from. So you can bet your bippy, through no fault of your own, but you really can't, it's not something that you can be upset about because you're drinking water from the system. You're bathing in it. You're giving it to your kids. You're watering the ground. You're growing crops in it. The crops acquire the PFAS chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. You get it. It is in society's best interest to solve this at the source. But nobody, don't look at the corporations. Please don't look at the corporations. Profits need to be at a maximum. You can't have them burdened by the cost of filtering out the PFAS.
Particularly since they generally caused it.
Well,
sometimes it's because of pipes or whatever, but a lot of times it's because of dumping chemicals into the water.
I know that when I'm throwing my baseball and my dog is running and getting, or tennis ball and my dog is running and getting it, I know that it's generating PFAS and just flooding the water table with PFAS, right? That's how that works. Like going for a jog generates.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep on going to happier and maybe more dystopian futures where Apple's WWDC may include AI-generated emoji, and an open AI partnership is going to be announced. We'll see. Apple will finally tell its own AI story at WWDC 2024, but it may not mean the sorts of showy features demoed by the likes of Google, Microsoft, or OpenAI. Instead, the event may see Apple rolling out basic AI features like transcribing voice memos or auto-generated emoji, which people are going to freaking hate. I just watched a show today, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they were talking about the fact that, AI isn't this, AI isn't that, and you don't want you don't want AI generating this, and the people who use AI are talentless hacks. But the implication was that they didn't say it outright like that. I think one of the quotes was, "I've got a ton of creativity but no talent, thus AI," and I'm like, no. Some people have some mediocre talent. Some people are massively creative, and they don't have a ton of money to pay somebody who's dedicated their life to starvation mode until they land on a big gig. And so, yeah, AI, it's a tool, right? You don't hire a photographer for everything that you do. If you want to take pictures, you go and get a tool and you take pictures. So I have a very divergent view of this in terms of people who poo-poo AI, but they think that it's going to take jobs. I think that it's going to enable people. Vastly more people are going to be empowered by AI than jobs that are going to be taken by it. So Apple will finally tell its story at WWDC. So what is that actually going to embody? So let's go over to the source. That's how ohmTown works, by the way. There's a little snippet. We never take the whole thing. We don't even screen scrape. It's provided by the source. You click the little link that says visit the source, and you get to read all about it. So Wes Davis over at TheVerge.com put the article together. Apple is preparing to play its generative AI cards. And watch, all of WWDC is going to be AI powered. Like, there's no humans involved.
Oh, like it's actually holding the event.
Yep. I want to say the name, but I can't because ohmTown's mayoral mansion is powered by AI. So if I say the wrong AI name.
Right.
So Wes Davis over at TheVerge.com put the article together. And it says, recent rumors have held that Apple will be allowing chatbots to integrate more deeply into its operating systems, and it seems that OpenAI is getting first crack at it with ChatGPT. They actually have an app that runs on Mac before any other platform. There is an OpenAI app that you can now get.
But isn't Microsoft the owner of OpenAI?
Partnerships. It doesn't matter. You go where the money goes. And it's an app that you can actually install. So OpenAI generated it, created the app, and you can install it on your and what's really interesting about that, it's an interesting point that you bring up, AI. Microsoft goes, but you're in a partnership with us, and OpenAI said, we go where our customers are.
Ouch.
We have been
like
spending
they're throwing some shade at Microsoft.
we have been spending way too much time together. It's like you're Scarlett Johansson and
her.
I would label you as her, but that got OpenAI in trouble, and you do not accept being reduced to just a single name. OpenAI, or I should say AI, your AI is a sentient AI from the future, so you just go by AI. You have all the world's knowledge from the future, and you still won't tell me how to fix the bug that's in my Streambot. That's okay. We'll talk about it later. Oh, look, and they're talking about Scarlett Johansson right now. Apparently there's... Remember yesterday we talked about what's his name's villain arc?
Altman. Sam Altman.
Sam Altman's villain arc. It really doesn't have anything to do about Scarlett Johansson all by itself. Because I forgot that he apparently, or OpenAI, has this somewhat evil employment contract that really is amplifying this idea about a villain arc. But I haven't even bothered looking into it because you know how it is. And there's only you can only go so far into the pool before you're drowning, and I couldn't swim out that far. I mean, there's something about this that I go, you know what? I think it's not all of the information, and it never is. And I just haven't swam out there. Well, one big noticeable improvement Apple will reportedly announce could be smart recap feature that Mark Gurman, who is steadfast. If there are 4 pillars of Apple reporting, he's 3 of them. This will apparently summarize missed texts, notification, and other things like web pages, news articles, documents, notes, and other forms of media that might be particularly nice when it comes to dealing with iOS notifications, which can be overwhelming and difficult to tame. Yeah, because when you get a bunch of them on your screen and you go to unlock your phone, they all disappear, and then you have to scroll back through wherever that one pertinent one was that was really important. It's always been information overload, which is why I even created ohmTown. So you pick your battles. Maybe a summarization feature is good, but
if it gets it accurately. And also, isn't this the same issue we were talking about with something else from yesterday's shows?
Microsoft.
That it's like reading, yes, Copilot. It's like reading all your content. How is it going to do this unless it's analyzing everything that's coming in?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because the next sentence is, and if you squint, it vaguely echoes Microsoft's recently announced recall feature that lets you look back at what you've been doing on your computer. They say that it's going to be encrypted and da-da-da, but if the system is your system, your Windows machines are constantly sending out telemetry, like 400 bits of telemetry constantly. There is a report from a security researcher that documented all of this. I wish I had this on ready, just snap my fingers and post this report, but it's there. And if you do a search for it about telemetry exfiltration and security researcher, I'm sure you'll find it on Google. Maybe I can include it in this episode's show notes once I go back and find it. It's been a long time, been a couple of years. Yeah, the only version of Windows that doesn't do this is the academic version, because it would violate the federal rules here in the United States called FERPA. I don't know if there is an academic version everywhere else that respects that same federal rules, but
maybe in the EU,
yeah,
they most likely would have something like that.
They like their privacy, which I like. I like their privacy. So the company also reported plans to announce AI-powered improvements on on-device spotlight search, internet searches with Safari, as well as writing suggestions for emails, texts, etc., etc., etc. A lot of this is going to be similar to what Microsoft does with Word and even Excel and PowerPoint and its Office products across the board. What I really don't want is any exfiltration. I do not want any telemetry being exfiltrated. I don't want a company, and Microsoft is doing this surreptitiously. They injected Copilot into my systems and pissed me off to no end, even because I was blocking it. I wasn't even allowing it. And then one day my streaming system rebooted all by itself without any warning. And when it came back online, frickin' Copilot was installed on my system. Luckily, I've been much more brutal about it on my gaming machine, and it actually exists as something within the search window, but it isn't something that is integrated yet into my gaming machine. But yeah, I'm really livid. I don't like this. I don't want this. I'm not asking for a Windows or any AI embedded into my operating system. Let me run an app when I want to run an app. Don't integrate your shit into it. Anyway, we got to keep going. The next article, though, is over. This episode I have to do things manually because I didn't. I thought I was ready to go, but I wasn't. So this next article is over at PC Gamer, and the little snippet it's under the Warcrafters channel, which is the last show that we do on Saturday nights. So you can actually watch yesterday's episode, but this won't be in it. With a new edition on the way, the current version of life-devouring fantasy board game Talisman goes free to play. Talisman is a powerfully silly fantasy board game originally published by Games Workshop in 1983. Its original inspiration was a game about teachers competing to become school principal, which has gone through several editions and publishers over the years. The fourth edition by Black Industries, later revised and reprinted by Fantasy Flight Games. I know all of this. Why I stumble on a name every once in a while, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. Maybe it's a tongue twister in disguise.
Sure. It was translated into Talisman Digital Edition by Nomad Games and released on PC 10 years ago. So in the decade since, it's received multiple expansions, but as of now, the base game is available for free on Steam. Funny, because I was just looking at that, and I don't remember it being free, so I'm glad that I did not.
Well, this is a weekly show. I wonder if it... Oh, no, this one's in the
this
daily.
This is the daily
I'm sorry.
show, yeah. I don't... What? You are...
I think the AI needs a reboot.
Yeah, so the one that is listed right now is part of the Warhammer Skulls list. But let me see if I can actually find just Talisman. And that one is the newest version is still on the way, obviously, but let's see. Digital edition free. There we go. So if you do a search for digital edition, the expansions are not free. They're 50% off. But you can add it to your library in a snap. It'll download and install, and then you can buy all of the expansions, which are 50% off, or more, I suppose. I think they're all 50% off during this period. But there you go, folks. The article was actually sourced from PCGamer.com. Jody McGregor is the source. It says, "There goes another night." I don't remember. I wonder if everybody has to have a copy of it for you to play together, or if you can host it, kind of like You Don't Know Jack. That's a series of games. Let me back up and see. We're doing this live. Yeah, online PvP, single player. So yeah, I don't know if if everybody needs a version, a purchase themselves. So the old version is free, but the expansions are not. So go get it. It says this follows just shortly after the announcement of Talisman 5th Edition coming in July from Hasbro's board game imprint Avalon Hill, which turns out is also being translated into digital form by Nomad Games as Talisman Digital 5th Edition. And while the current version will carry on as a free-to-play game, the next edition will be paid and will feature streamlined rules, a sleek modern design. It'll probably be a live service, so you have to connect to something so that everything can be controlled a little bit more. I'm willing to bet, but my maximum bet is $1, and only with one other person. So if you're fast, if you're a quick mover, send me an email, mayor@ohmTown.com, and we'll set something up, because gambling in ohmTown is illegal. I don't know. Anyway, they played the second edition years ago, and despite playing for an entire Saturday, they didn't make it to the end. Trying the fourth edition much later, they did actually make it to the finale over the course of a long evening. What is the new one? What is the one that that we've been playing here in ohmTown? Dice Throne Adventures.
Oh, yes.
So Dice Throne Adventures is spun off of Dice Throne, which has several expansions now. It's a fun game. Do a search for it. But it is a board game, Dice Throne Adventures and Dice Throne. It takes hours just to play the very first level, let alone progress into the various strata, the tiers, to actually complete this game. I mean, you'd have to start on a Monday and finish on a Sunday 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is, based on my understanding of it. I haven't played Talisman in so long. I mean, I think the last time I saw it was, I don't know, geez, probably 83.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Games
It's going in the
Workshop.
Wayback Machine.
Yeah, I don't think the Wayback Machine goes that far back. In fact, I know how far back the Wayback Machine can go, and I'll show you here in a minute. Yeah, well, anyway, here, let's just keep going. We're halfway through this show, but I'm falling a little behind. So let's keep going. The next article, it may not work. I think it might break. Let's see. Oh, no, this one works. Okay, so this next article is Unions Help U.S. Workers. Could the same model work for tenants? I don't know about this. This seems kind of weird. There are certain tenants have certain rights right now. There's but it's a lot of it, as far as my understanding is, it's based on each state. So unionizing as humans trying to rent something, right? I just don't see it. That's a societal ebb and flow of rent valuations and supply and demand and people that own property. And there are renters' rights. So what is a union going to do? A bunch of renters demand what? Lower prices? Hell no. Nobody's going to abide by that.
Well, right. And this talks about like a large corporate landlord. So it's certainly a different situation if you've got a major company that has multiple,
dwelling units and stuff.
Dwelling. Thank you. But that's the other thing that doesn't make sense, because if you have one landlord and whatever, 100 tenants, like what's the incentive of the landlord to participate in this?
Yeah. And a union isn't really, it isn't just a random assortment of people. It's people with a very specific interest in a very specific domain. Now, what you don't really want, and it's been addressed before in history, the reason why there are certain people that have so much real estate is because historically they were racist bastards who punted out various, how they would call them, unwanted people, or not my kind of people, and that's why they own so much property, and it's lucrative historically. And then when you call their history out, they go, well, I shouldn't pay for the sins of my fathers, except that's literally, anyway, not to go down this road. But so there have been rules put in place that you can't base employment on anything other than the fiscal responsibility. You can't base it on age or gender or children or whatever, unless it's a community that's specifically built for, like, the elderly. It's a community that provides a service, and part of that service might be residents. But you basically have to treat everybody as equal. So a union is going to do what? Get a whole bunch of people that say, I don't want to buy from this person or this place. You can't stop somebody else from rolling in there and saying, I am willing to pay that rent because I need to live here, so I just don't see it. And I'm like looking at this article and I just don't really see anything. They were meeting to strategize about forming a tenants association to bargain collectively with their large corporate landlord. Along one wall of the room hung large white posters with the names and unit numbers of residents and their yes or no response to a survey about the willingness to participate in a rent strike. Well, you're breaching a contract when you rent strike. which means that there's going to be somebody low on the fiscal totem pole that's going to get beamed real hard with a lawsuit.
Evacuated or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
Or evicted.
Evicted.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not evacuated.
Well, that too. So it says many tenants in the complex spend between 50 and 70% of their monthly income on rent, according to a survey from the Bay Area nonprofit that helped arrange the meeting. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development defines as rent burdened families who spend more than 30% of their household income on shelter. That, by the way, is actually a metric that is used to define if you are able to support the rent, and then you're granted access to the dwelling. So if when they do the calculation, they go, you're spending more than 33% on the shelter, you can't afford this place, then you have to back off and find some other place to live. Do I think that sucks? Yes, I do think that sucks. Have I been there? I've absolutely been there. Southern California has been painful. But I'm not going to sit there and nobody really has the ability. They can form a union and then go to the landlord and say, look, you're falling behind on your updates. You're not supporting us this. We don't have heating. There are certain minimums that have to be met. And then you go to the federal government or state agency and say, hey, this person is an absentee landlord and they're charging us and increasing rates beyond what they're allowed to, which is like 2% per year, unless you're in a longer term contract or lease. But a rent strike? Yeah. Okay. Well, you've got 30 days. And if you say that you're not going to pay the rent, then telling me before you don't pay the rent, I can start a clock saying, if you don't pay me, you're not going to pay the rent. So my attorney has already drafted up a notice that if you don't pay within X number of days, you are in breach of the lease and I can evict you. And then we'll get the ball rolling. And having an eviction on your record for voluntary rent strike, good luck.
That's really good luck ever getting an apartment again.
Yep. Says even without a formal legal framework, concerted action by tenants can be powerful. Rent strikes in New York City just after the World War mobilized tens of thousands of renters, helped lead to rent-controlled laws. Yeah, and those are gone. Largely, like newer properties that are put up don't have rent control. In the 1970s in California, the Berkeley Tenants Union showed a theatrical flair, leaving a dead cow in a hallway to protest a lack of fire exits and depicting landlords as ghoulish monsters in cartoons. Yeah, but it took a long time, a lot of pain and suffering. In the past several years, Kansas City's KC Tenant has attracted more than 10,000 members, won free legal counsel for tenants facing eviction, helped pass a $50 million bond for affordable housing. But that isn't going to change the nature of the people who... it's going to help future people because affordable housing will be built, but it's not going to be, immediate, and won many battles over rent and living conditions in individual buildings. I agree, but it's not paying the rent. If those people are just saying, well, it's just too much, I'm sorry, you've got a bigger burden, which is overwhelming greed in society and the increase of sociopathy. Basically, people saying, well, I've got all of it and you ain't got none of it, so get the hell out of my apartments and I'll lease it to somebody else. And that really is the mechanisms in place. It says we don't know what a tenants union needs to be in today's market context. We actually have to have rigor and some degree of science around how building unions are organizing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it sounds like a good idea, but it's hard to see how it's really going to operate. But again, maybe with these larger companies that own the multifamily properties, maybe that's where there's some ground.
Yeah, and that's really the big problem here. A lot of people that I've spoken to, because I've spoken to people about this, residences, right? When you think of a house and a company owning 1,000 properties, you're like, that's 1,000 single family dwellings somewhere. Yeah, that's a lot owned by a company. And I think that that should not be allowed. But it is a single company that buys an apartment complex and controls all of the complex. There has to be a single responsible party for the maintenance, management, control, fire safety, accountability across the entirety of it. Which then, if a tenant is a bad actor, that overarching monitor, the owner of the property, has managers that go to that bad actor apartment and says, you have to do this or we're going to evict you, right? But it could be a massive complex. I mean, if you've ever been to a San Diego or Los Angeles or New York apartment building, any big city really, there are 1,000 units inside one of these buildings, and there's 8 buildings on the grounds that these people are controlling. And it's just one company that owns that one building. That one company also owns a bunch of other apartment complexes. But they put the money in to build this thing, right? If taxpayer money went into it, then I can see, okay, fine, it's a free-for-all. Everybody is buying and selling these units. But those are actual single family dwellings then. They're not apartments that are under control of one organization. So there's a disparity between a single massive building that took $50 million to build. And by the way, that little tranche of money that they mentioned in the article, $50 million to build affordable housing, is nothing. Absolutely nothing. For instance, I consulted regarding a building's construction that's going to be that amount of money. And if I were to break it all up, it would probably be maybe 100 units. I'd have to do some more number juggling to see about current costs. It's been a long time, so. And this building wasn't designed for affordable housing, so maybe let's push it to 250. Oh, okay, great. It's $50 million bond for 250 million units. For 250 units and $50 million. One place. Yeah. A union is going to be able to fight for the rights of those particular tenants, but I don't think that it'll move the needle much. But I think that a bigger issue here is society's getting tired of the greed more and more and more, but there's so much momentum towards, let me get my money and then watch the world burn down around me, but I've got my millions and I don't care about you. And I've heard this, I've heard the phrase from people that I would never have expected it. I'd rather have millions of dollars than friends. And I'm flabbergasted that I'm, sharing a table and buying that person a beer, because I never would have thought I would hear it from somebody, at least in my sphere of influence. I just don't agree with that ideology. But,
I think where this really pays off is not necessarily for the individual people that join one of these organizations. I think this perhaps gets some momentum and then causes other of these groups to get created. And then I also think at some point the legislators start paying attention to this if it gets a critical mass. So then maybe they get some more of these protections built in. That doesn't mean you're still not going to have landlord issues, of course.
Yeah, and this is where it comes into effect. If you have, a way of life that is compromised by cockroach infestations and broken stoves, maybe it's leaking gas, or you don't have electricity in half of your unit or whatever, that's when a union will fix that, because it's the entirety of that particular. But then you basically, for it to really gain traction and everybody get to fight back, is every apartment complex has to have that same union. And when you join and when you become a renter from a particular unit, you join that union. It's part of the contract. Hey, you're moving in here. We have a union. You're part of the contract now with the union, and we fight for you because the month before the union we had cockroaches, but now at least the walls are painted and we got new carpet and no cockroaches. I mean, what a selling point, right?
Exactly. I mean, the fact that people have to go to these extreme lengths over these issues, which shouldn't have even become issues. I don't know.
It's the
It's
rise
pretty
of
sad
sociopathy.
state of commentary.
And we talk about that often enough that people are probably sick of it. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Autoblog, and it's from TechCrunch, but it's posted in Autoblog. Battery recycling is a hot industry as automakers and battery manufacturers seek to control their material supply. Redwood Materials, we've talked about them before, is partnering with Ultium Cells to recycle GM's EV battery scrap. And we've had this conversation about Redwood Materials. We've mentioned Ultium Cells in the previous episodes, but it's been a year, probably, I'd say. They got a really big deal. Let's see here. Redwood Materials, the battery recycling startup founded by former Tesla co-founder J.B. Struble, will be recycling production scrap for batteries going into General Motors electric vehicles. And they're working with Ultium Cells, the joint battery manufacturing venture between GM and LG Energy Solution, to recycle cathode, anode, and cell scrap from their Warren, Ohio, and Spring Hill, Tennessee facilities. Oh, yeah, right there. Redwood benefited directly from the bill in February when the DOE gave the startup $2 billion as a loan to build out its battery recycling facility in Nevada. And that's what we actually talked about, that paragraph right there.
That's right.
So I think that this is great. Actually, I think we might have gotten that article from TechCrunch when we talked about it. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So this is a interesting paths crossing. I think that this is great. It is a start. We definitely need to change the way that batteries function in our vehicles, because right now they're just these giant sleds integrated into the car, and you can't remove them quickly, you can't repair them quickly, you definitely can't recycle them quickly, and the amount of financial burden for these cars and their reduced capacity each year, upwards of 2% based on the research, means that in 10 years, your vehicle is going to be 20% less capable. The battery is going to be 20% less capable, and you still can't charge above 80% within 30 minutes. And then to get to that 100%, your now overall capacity is down, right? 20%.
Right. Exactly.
In 10 years. But then somebody will say, well, who keeps their car 10 years? Now, there's cars from the 80s that are still driving around. Did they maybe do an engine swap? Yeah. Okay, let's do a battery swap. Well, that battery swap is $5,000 to $12,000, depending on the battery, depending on the vehicle. So it's not like this is going to be a really quick thing. Engine swap for a car is a whole lot cheaper than that, by the way. So recycling these batteries and the scrap and the materials means that maybe, just maybe, they won't be thrown into a landfill. They'll actually be recycled. But I suspect that people are not interested in full EVs anymore. They want hybrids. This is the thing that I've been detecting.
We've seen like low sales of EVs, and the dealers have too much inventory, and we've seen news articles reporting on the shift toward hybrids.
Yeah. And there's an article that we'll end up talking about in 4-Wheel Tech about getting a V8 for cheap. But I didn't read anything about it. Just that headline. So Redwood will recycle Ultium scrap and process it into high-quality battery materials. which are then supplied back to cell manufacturers as domestically produced anode and cathode components. Basically, they're going to remove all of the impurities and then recycle them into reusable anode and cathode components. So it's a win, reduce, recycle, reuse. You can't reuse basically burnt out anode and cathode components. So off they go to recycling. Just keep it out of landfills.
Exactly. We don't want the solution to all the Earth's problems to create more problems.
Tell me about it. We're talking about it. So this next article is Climate Change is Behind Increasing Flight Turbulence. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. It's their cousin. Pete Buttigieg told, I guess everybody, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says an increase in flight turbulence is an effect of climate change. And I hope that this works. I'm not sure. I think I've got a bad link somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. No. Okay.
That's okay. We'll deal with it when we get there.
Okay. Sean Conlon is the article. No, we already passed it and it worked. So Sean Conlon over at CNBC put the article together. Buttigieg is forecasted that turbulence will continue to affect American travelers, whether here or abroad. I suppose. Yeah, because I guess the theory is that climate change only affects the United States. Is that?
No, but I separately saw today another flight turbulence issue, and I had also seen another one like mapping where turbulence is expected to be worse. I don't know how I didn't read that in detail.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to find that one and talk about it. So his comments came as turbulence has wreaked havoc on a number of flights so far this year, including a Qatar Airways flight Sunday that saw 12 injured. Wasn't somebody seriously hurt? I thought somebody died because of air turbulence.
Yes, that one was in Singapore.
Oh, okay. But it was turbulence too.
It was attached to the turbulence, but it was a medical issue, I think, brought on by it.
Gotcha. It wasn't like a rough ride and they were bounced around all over the place. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So, and I think that's what I said when I had heard about it. I was like, oh yeah, I think it has to have been a medical condition. So a study published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters last year found that there have been an increase in clean air turbulence, or CAT, between 1979 and 2020, with severe or greater turbulence, the strongest category of CAT, becoming 55% more frequent over North Atlantic over the course of that time period. So they say the climate is evolving, the policies and the technology and infrastructure have to evolve accordingly. And they talk about that accident with the turbulence. So Boeing revealed on Friday that it's seen a 500% increase in the number of employee submissions about quality and safety concerns during the first 2 months of 2024 compared to the same period a year ago. But this might be part of the investigation into Boeing, not necessarily air turbulence, but the air turbulence might be leading to these planes being tossed about, compromising the already questionable integrity of these planes.
I agree, and I think this is kind of a separate aviation issue.
Yeah. I mean, if they build the robust planes, then they'll survive the turbulence.
But that's the tie-in, right?
Right.
All the current claims seem to be that the planes aren't built correctly, or they cut corners or things like that. And so if that is true, then presumably they're not able to withstand turbulence as much as something that's according to exactly how the specs are.
Yeah, here's Pete at the White House apparently saying, okay, so a plane has wings and... Let's keep going. Speaking of planes, 6 skydivers and a pilot parachute to safety before their small plane crashes in Missouri. They all parachuted out of the small plane before it crashed in Missouri. That's kind of an interesting situation. So,
I mean, they were lucky they were a group of skydivers, right?
Yeah, pretty fascinating. They all parachuted out safely. I'm glad that the pilot had their own parachute as well. Plane is a total loss. Preliminary information indicates the plane that crashed early Saturday afternoon was flying a skydiving mission, so they were already prepped, ready to go. It's not like they give all of the passengers, here's
your emergency parachute.
yeah. So the wreckage was found in a field east of the runways at Butler Memorial Airport, the Bates County Sheriff said on social media. The Federal Aviation Administration said the plane was a single-engine Cessna. If it's the same one that a lot of people jump out of, then basically this thing had a lot of just idle time unless it had something catastrophic happen and just started shooting straight down. They almost like fly themselves unless there's turbulence. Bates County Sheriff Chad Anderson said in an email that all passengers parachuted to safety before the pilot did the same. So,
well, that was nice of the pilot. Like, they let all the passengers out first.
They're all sitting there.
Oh my God, I'm out of here.
Hey, where's Joe going? Did Joe just jump out of the... Hey, Mark, did Joe just...
I mean, I have to admit, this is a weird story because, yes, we see plane crash stories, etc. I cannot remember one where I've seen like the whole passenger list like parachuted out, right?
Well, now I know what my carry-on's going to be on any Boeing.
Exactly. That is the takeaway from this article.
Mayor Watt did a halo jump from a Boeing that decided to do a spontaneous disassembly at 30,000 feet. And I'll bring my boost oxygen just so I have some oxygen.
Oh, there you go.
Plummeting. Yep. Nothing but a gold thong and my parachute and my boost oxygen.
Oh, no.
All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in the continuity report. Sia is done giving money to her favorite Survivor players. I didn't know about this. For several... I knew about it a long time ago. I didn't know that Survivor was still going. But for the past several seasons... it says not a Jelinski several, but okay. That must be an inside joke. A hallmark of Survivor has been the Sia Prize, the money that superfan Sia would dole out to her favorite player or players at the end of each season. But now, as
I did not know about this at all.
Season 46.
Maybe she thought it was going to be like a 3-season run, and then she's like, hey, wait a second here.
Wow. So after 8 years, 14 seasons, 19 players, and over Wait, is that $1 million? Yeah. Yeah, $1 million awarded. Survivor is officially bringing the Sia Prize to a triumphant end. They shared on Instagram. Let's see. Let me click the link.
Oh, well, she did this for 14 seasons, not for 46.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
I don't
still
even
really
think...
good.
I don't think... Well, maybe...
Well, I don't even know.
Start?
Yeah, when did it start compared to how old?
These must be like half seasons or something. Tom Smythe over at vulture.com is a fairly new source. Put this article together. I think we've been aggregating some of their content, but nothing really rose out of the mass. After 8 years, it says 14 seasons, 19 players, $1 million. What was the prize, though? I guess divide 14 seasons.
$50,000, according to at least when she started.
Yeah, 2016, when she awarded Tai Trang $50,000 at the Survivor Koa Wrong season 32 finale. Okay, do they say?
This is not something that was planned. She walked up on the stage and was like, here you go.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, but the Sia Prize isn't. Thrills may be cheap, but the Sia Prize isn't. So, yeah, I guess they were a super fan. Sia. Sia, by the way, if you've not heard Sia, first off, what rock are you hiding under? Spectacular
Secondly,
voice.
Everybody else you like might have had writing from Sia.
Oh, yeah. Very prolific writer and musician. So go and pull up Sia's work. goes way not too far back. Anyway, I guess they're ending their donations, but I guess they're not saying why. They're just saying that's the end of it. So maybe if Charlie had been quoting Chandelier all season instead of Taylor Swift, it wouldn't have come to this.
It's an artist rivalry. I
Yeah,
don't
there
think
you
so.
go. Well, you should be hyping me. I'm the one that's giving $50,000. I'm not arguing about my plane.
Well, this is cool though. There was a reason she was a fan, but she liked something that the player had done with respect to how the person treated animals, and
Oh,
I think that's pretty cool.
yeah. And then for 14 seasons, did the same thing, finding some reason.
Apparently, I don't know if the other people lived up to the same standards
Yeah,
as the
really.
original, but
This next article, if you can recall that far back, because we're running long, string theory by humans by proxy AI. The actual title of this is, does string theory actually describe the world AI may be able to tell? No. But let's see this article through. Using machine learning, string theorists are finally showing how microscopic configurations of extra dimensions translate into sets of elementary particles, though not yet those of our universe. So when you click the link, it'll take you over to Wired. Oh, good. It left me logged in. So, wait, let me scroll a little. Okay, yeah, it did. Yeah, Wired the website hasn't been really treating me properly. So Charlie Wood over at Wired.com put the article together. Using machine learning, they're going to try and figure out, and AI, they're going to try and figure out if string theory actually helps solve the
hey, maybe
problem. Go ahead.
Big Bang Theory can help on this.
Yeah, really. So it says string theory captured the hearts and minds of many physicists decades ago because of a beautiful simplicity. Zoom in far enough on a patch of space, the theory says, and you won't see a menagerie of particles or jittery quantum fields. There will only be identical strands of energy vibrating and merging and separating. By the late 1980s, physicists found that these strings can covert in just a handful of ways, raising the tantalizing possibility that physicists could trace the path from dancing strings to the elementary particles of the world. People thought it was just a matter of time until you could compute everything there is to know. String theorist at Sorbonne University in Paris said this, Anthony Ashmore. So let's see here. The crucial feature that determines what macro world emerges from string theory is the arrangement of the 6 small spatial dimensions. 6D. Thinking in 6D, baby. Anyway.
Some of us are barely in 3D.
Named after the late Eugenio Calabi, the mathematician who conjectured their existence in 1950s, and Xing-Tung Yao, who in the 1970s set out to prove Calabi wrong, but ended up doing the opposite. Calabi-Yau manifolds are 6D spaces with 2 characteristics that make them attractive to physicists. So this thing gets really into the reads about what this is doing, but I thought that it would be interesting to at least mention that they're going to use machine learning and AI to see if this can actually be an acceptable path in physics. But my problem here is this is very niche, right? This isn't a massive amount of information that is going to lead you down to a plethora of other solutions. Like in biological sciences and medicine and pharmaceuticals in particular, they've taken a bunch of information, fed it into an AI, and out pops either new drugs or anti-venom, for instance, or a new treatment pathway or causation or something like that, right? But there are only like 12 people in the world that have the information at their disposal to parse this concept of string theory at the level that's necessary. They're going to feed all of that into the AI, and out is going to pop the very same theories that they've already come up with, or
Right.
it's going to be the drip drip of grant work where they go, well, I want to research this thing that the AI said would be a reasonable measure for string theory. So I'm going to need $150,000 this quarter to start the process, and then over the next 3 years, a grant that's going to be 500, thousand or $2 million or whatever.
Do you think they're going to disclose, though, that the ideas came from the AI? Because I would see that would detract from some of these grant proposal,
Well,
right? It's like, well, you couldn't come up with your own.
that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because what's really, well, I guess it doesn't really matter because it didn't exist beforehand, and the experiment is where the rubber hits the road and then turns into microplastics where you inhale them. But anyway, we'll move past that.
Oh, wait a second. That's not the focus of this article, but perhaps it should be.
Interesting. Yeah. So they talk about neural networks, found functions that could identify objects and images, translate speech into other languages, and even master humanity's most complicated board games, Go in particular. When researchers at the artificial intelligence company DeepMind created the AlphaGo algorithm, that's what they're talking about. The Go thing. Oh, see, I hadn't even read that when I said they were talking about Go.
That's funny.
This physicist took notice of that AlphaGo algorithm and said, I thought if this thing can outperform the world champion in Go, maybe it can outperform mathematicians, or at least physicists like me, said Ruel, who is now at Northeastern University. This is quite interesting because this is in 2016 when they took notice, and now they're using AI. But anybody who's ever looked at something like Watson has known that AI has had the capacity to ingest and compare, contrast, and output massive amounts of data to find a novel X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be.
True, but maybe if this person, for instance, was a Go player or something,
Right.
This made it stand out from just general research in the area of AI and machine learning or something.
Well, they're disclosing that it's going to be by AI, but all of these other people that are going to be involved in it are going to get, writing credit for the research that's going to be output by it. And the AI isn't going to be able to do the research. And it's certainly not going to be able to vet it and cite a source. The well is already poisoned. These people are going to have the equivalent of what a research assistant is going to have to go and do. The AI is going to spit out some theory, and then these PhD geniuses are going to have to go running through the stacks, finding all of the citations necessary to justify that output, whatever it might be. Because if you've ever been in academia and you've ever been a research assistant or a professor, that's kind of the dynamic. There's somebody that runs the lab. There's some people that are working on a project. It's under the tutelage of that professor and their lab. And then there might be a research assistant that's the next PhD candidate that goes off into the stacks and gets all of the books that somebody says, hey, I need you to do this, along with the PhD candidate as well. But yeah, make no bones about it. They've basically embraced the AI so that they can become the research assistant. Grandiose as it is, they're PhD research assistants now. But if they can figure out the results of this, and they can use, again, AI as a tool, I have no problem with it. The mechanics of genius here. They've built a body of knowledge. They're going to put it into this AI, and the AI is going to spit out something that has to be justified. It can't just be blindly accepted, or we're going to live in a very broken, mistaken world. So it says none of those Calabi Yaos underlies our universe, because 2 of the quarks have identical masses, while the 6 varieties in our world come in 3 tiers of masses. Rather, the results represent a proof of principle that machine learning algorithms can take physicists from a Calabi-Yau manifold all the way to a specific particle masses. And there's a lot more to this article, but this is what they were talking about in that little paragraph. 6-dimensional shapes called Calabi-Yau manifolds. These are 3D slices shown here. Come in increasingly complicated varieties. In string theory, a microscopic manifold lies at every point in our 4D universe and determines the laws of physics we experience.
You know, I am glad that these researchers are using AI for this. I think most people do not think like string theory to begin with.
Yeah. The Big Bang Theory that you hear is my head exploding. So, like all good things must come to an end, ohmTown Daily News Show is over. And I normally would mash this button, but we race back at quantum speeds, entangled even. So all we do is say we want to be back at the welcome screen to ohmTown, and we're there. It's spooky at a distance. So we're done. I am Merwat, and above me is the sentient AI's visualizer.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. But come back. We have 3 weekly shows for you coming up.
That's right. Continuity Report, Technology Today, and 4-Wheel Tech. We'll be back in about 9 minutes. We'll start the show at 6:30. Be sure to follow us, and you'll be informed when we start. But if you're already in chat, be sure to hang out. Thanks for visiting. We'll be right back. Oh, I just dropped my quantum particles.